Console, online. HPG connection, online. Educational module, online. All systems, nominal.
Hello, class, and welcome to On the Origin of Battlemechs Podcast, episode 58. I am your host, Brent Stewart McKee. My co-hosts today are...
I'm Joshua.
And I'm Chandler.
And today we are going to talk about the Galahad, a 60-ton mech with one exception, the first model, which is 50 tons, much like the Rifleman, and that'll get explained in a sec why.
And I'm a little confused here because it says you can find it in TRO Succession Wars, which normally means I can dig it out of technical readout 3025 or 2750, but it's not in either of those.
I don't know what to tell you, other than the fact it showed up in 3075.
It's in my copy of the record sheets for Succession Wars, and also for... just double check this.
Well, I'm just wondering how it made it into TRO Succession Wars if it didn't originally show up in either 3025 or 2750.
So I'm going to hazard a guess that it is one of the ones that they have filled in throughout the years to, putty in the cracks of, well, there really should be some more mechs here. And so it got a debut/resurrection during the Jihad, and then has the, backstory filled in through retcon.
Okay.
That would be my guess.
Sounds about right, especially with its weapons loadout.
So, let's dig into the history of this Galahad then.
So the Galahad was designed from the beginning to replace the Rifleman, but as we all know, that simply did not happen. While an improvement over the 2N Rifleman, the Galahad 1D still suffered from similar problems. The 2D, however, would be more widely adopted, but its high tech level meant that few remained after the SLDF exodus, and those that did were cannibalized or simply could not be repaired. This made the machine a rare sight to see until the Word of Blake resurrected the machine on Hesperus 2 during the Jihad. Its slow speed across all models would be its greatest downfall as a weapon of war. It has the design quirks of being difficult to maintain, which, as we have talked about before, is not a great thing.
It's no bueno.
I'm getting really strong hammer hand vibes from this 3075 TRO artwork.
I mean, that's fair.
You mean the gun barrels for hands?
Yeah. So the GLH-1D was debuted in 2570, and it was 50 tons, unlike the rest of the models under this name, which was 60. And of course, it had some heat issues because it has only 13 double heat sinks, but it has a PPC and a large laser in both the right and the left arm, so that will generate quite a bit of heat very quickly, and it has a movement profile of 3.5.
I knew I'd seen it. The original technical readout 3055.
3055. Interesting.
I'll be honest, I really love the look.
Oh yeah, the look is great. Yeah.
I want a new mech based off of this. Like, this is such good art. Like, I get that they made it to be a smaller version, but call it the Squire, make it similar. Boom. Done. I'll buy it.
I would even take a redo, 4D that has a actually pretty decent loadout and armor, and one that is tuned a lot better, like we've seen with the new versions of the Rifleman,
Oh, wow.
I mean, for its design purpose of being a sniper, the Galahad does that job great.
Oh, yeah.
And we will go over that when we get to the 2D. But the 1D has exact same problems the original Rifleman had, which it's got a lot of energy weapons and not a lot of heat sinks. Even with the double heat sinks, it's still outstripping those if it alpha strikes by a lot.
Oh, yes.
It can sink 26, but it can produce 36. So it goes over that by 10.
And with a movement profile of 3.5, you're always going to be wanting to run. No matter what it is, you're going to need to run.
Granted, you have range. So if you're fighting a lot of small mechs with medium lasers, you can just play the I'm going to shoot you from a distance and then retreat game until they die.
So this guy's got a battle value of 1307 and a point value of 29.
So I'm digging into this Galahad in the TRO 3055, and it is not the same Galahad. It is apparently what the clans call the Glass Spider.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a double listing that exists in the universe.
But what's interesting is TRO 3055 says the Galahad was first seen on the battlefields at the beginning of the 26th century. The original version launched was considered a medium fire support mech. Problems with overheating forced a redesign and a consequent increase in weight. The revised Galahad still failed to meet the hopes of its design team, and it took 2 centuries for this version to appear on the battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds about right.
So is the glass spider really just the Galahad but clan version?
See, now I look at the glass spider and I don't see it as the clan version of the Galahad. I see it as the love child of the refined Galahad and the refined rifleman.
The glass spider is a Galahad 2C. That is what it is. Granted, it takes a lot of cues from the rifleman 2C as well, which makes sense with the role it's supposed to fill.
I think I'm with Chandler on this one. It is a Galahad 2C with, I mean, the rifleman's the better mech anyway, right? That's why we don't see the Galahad in the inner sphere. So they took what they needed from the rifleman to make the Galahad successful. Divergent evolution, as Brent might say.
Yep, or convergent, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, and you also have to remember that the reason it's christened the Galahad is because when it showed up back in the inner sphere observers called it a Galahad because they thought it was a Galahad.
Yeah, it looked like a Galahad, it walked like a Galahad, it shot like a Galahad.
So it was a Galahad. Much like how the Mad Cat is a Timberwolf and the Mad Dog is a Vulture.
Yes.
It's just the different name for the same mech. Just like the Glass Spider is effectively a Galahad 2C, but it never got that name. The clans called it the Glass Spider. But that's because of, oh god, what's it called?
That's because the clans are obsessed with totemic animals, whereas the inner sphere is obsessed with all things Arthurian.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a Widowmaker mech, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Originally. And then eventually ended up in everyone's Tomans because Widowmaker went the way of Die. They went the way of Die, yes. Now, this is a complete sentence.
So poetic, Chandler, so poetic. So we have the Galahad 2D that comes out in 2594, and this guy definitely changes it up a bit. Keeps that movement profile of 3.5, and then it has a Gauss rifle in both arms. It has endo steel and ferro armor. It also has 2 tons of ammo for each of those arms, so 16 shots is not bad. It'll carry you through any match, but if you're looking at this as a campaign or a long-term thing, there's a reason in the fluff it says that it's always attached to a supply line.
Yeah, it also gains 10 tons over the 1D.
Yes.
Yeah, pulls a rifleman.
I understand why it went away.
Yeah.
2 Gauss rifles is impressive firepower, especially on a 60-ton mech. But that's all it has. It's so slow compared to its contemporaries.
Yeah, that movement speed really just is... It's what killed it, in my opinion, because the point of a mech, its strength is that it has that mobility. Even assaults, they can push to move a little bit quicker than this.
Yeah, and then assault mechs, they're designed to wade through, like, difficult terrain during an assault. Whereas this is not where this thing would be.
No.
If you're going to have a medium mech go this slow, it's going to have to be a very specialist designed to support something else that's slow, like infantry. And this guy's got nothing to really support infantry with in either configuration.
And if you look at the 2D, it is exclusively a sniper mech. Like, it can take a little bit of return fire.
Oh, yeah.
It's got almost full armor, but that is exclusively what it does, is it snipes at people.
And I mean, I love a good Gauss rifle, but the 2 of them with nothing else, it feels, I don't want to say naked, but it feels like it should have more. But of course, those rifles each have a massive ton restriction on each, so it makes sense why in a medium you generally see one of them and other weapon systems to balance it out instead of going whole hog on 2 of them.
Well, you gotta remember, this thing's a heavy mech now.
It's a glorified medium. I mean, 60 tons is still basically a medium. But yeah, can we sidebar into technology itself for a second here, Brent?
Absolutely.
Because I'm noticing in the 2D art these Gauss rifles have rifling, and I'm not sure how effective or even physically possible that is with a Gauss rifle system.
Yeah, that is an interesting detail. And you are not incorrect.
Obviously, they originally designed it to have AC-20s in the arms.
Yes.
And before you laugh at me, I can put 2 Clan Ultra 20s on this thing and have tonnage left over.
That might actually be a better mech.
Especially if you have tonnage left over.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I'll be very slow, but don't get near me.
That's an interesting artifact. Yeah, but while we're talking about the rifling and the art, it's got some interesting legs. It almost looks like it has heatsink fins directly behind the knee, but that's probably movable armor plating, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, and you see that in the 1D as well, a little bit, but it's more towards the shin.
Yeah.
I do find it interesting if you look at the glass spider legs, there is a lot of the same shape language between it and the Galahad 2D. Kind of the recurving shin guards, prominent knees.
Yeah, I can see that.
The very Sabaton foot.
Yeah, it's almost like they're designed off of each other. Clans are copycats.
I do very much like the arm mounting of the weapon systems on top of each other. Obviously, that doesn't quite work for the 2D because it only has one, but the 1D with the large laser and the PPC over top of each other and has that nice right angle triangle support sort of thing going on. The torso is very sleek. The head has this kind of like collar going around it, and it's just kind of a disc sort of thing. It looks pretty neat. The only thing that I'm not super plussed on is the 2 heatsink ports on the front.
They feel very 1960s automobile.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't really care for the 1D art except for the arms.
Mm-hmm.
While I tend to like everything on the 2D art except for the arms. So can I get a version that has the 2D body and legs with the 1D arms?
Well,
that's funny because I'm not exactly opposite because I highly prefer the 1D, but I like the arms on the 2D, and I like the head assembly on the 2D as well.
Yeah, that's fair.
The arms, it's those giant extended pistons that bother me. Like, it should have exposed actuators as a quirk.
A quirk? Yeah, no, that's fair. I think the giant exposed pistons are goofy and gives it some interesting personality. It's completely impractical in an actual, like, weapons platform built for war, as we have talked about in previous episodes, but it looks cool.
Rule of cool.
I also like how the pistons are supporting the weapon port that just has like these giant heat sink fins on the side of the weapons barrel. I think that looks pretty sweet. So the 2D has a battle value of 1648 and a point value of 35. And an interesting note is that they found long-term the arm actuators required a lot of maintenance and would often take more maintenance than any other machine. So that would be the fluff of the difficult to maintain.
I wonder why. Giant exposed hydraulic rams.
Nah.
So we then jump quite a bit forward into the 3070s with the 3D. And this guy's got a movement profile of 4.6, so a little bit better. Still slow for its weight, but not as bad as its brothers. It's got an Guardian ECM suite in the right torso, an improved C3 in the left torso, a light Gauss rifle in the right arm and the left arm, and then it has Endo and Pharaoh. It also has a light fusion engine and 10 single heat sinks.
And a small cockpit.
Oh yes, and a small cockpit, thank you. Yeah, no, this is interesting. It's neat. It's, stripping or downgrading those rifles so that it can add some protection and targeting data acquisition, which is not bad at all. I think this is actually better than the 2D by quite a bit.
And it's faster.
I would have to agree. And the main problem is it's Word Blake.
Yes.
Because that improved C3. But I don't actually think those light Gauss rifles are a downgrade for this guy. They're more appropriate to its tonnage than 2 Gauss rifles.
Mm-hmm.
It allows you to bump up to a 4.6 movement profile, which, like you said, is a little slow for a 60-tonner.
Yes.
But it at least lets you keep up with other heavies, and you're not lagging way behind mediums. And then with the Guardian ECM to protect your C3, you also have C3 to put on these ridiculously long-range light Gauss rifles, so you can be a specialist sniper now. And like I was saying, that's the biggest problem with the previous Galahads, is they need a specialist role, but they don't particularly fill any of them well. But now this guy can. He's also got twice as much ammo because he keeps the same 4 tons of ammo for the light Gauss rifles, but they double the amount of shots when you go from a standard Gauss to a light Gauss.
Yeah, no, that definitely helps.
Yeah, the Galahad shines with the Word of Blake, which is a reason why I don't think we'll see it again.
No, probably not.
Just because it's so closely associated with them at that point.
I mean, I do also like how the art has kind of shifted the cockpit more directly into the torso, but also has extended it back a little bit. It reminds me of a lot of a Huron warrior.
Yep.
Yeah.
Except this one's angled back a bit more. It's a little sleeker. I like it a lot.
I think it looks a lot better on this model than it does on the actual Huron warrior, because I mean, I don't think that mech actually looks very good.
You say that, but when you get one in HBS 3060 Advanced, you're like, oh my god, this thing's the best, because it's one of the easiest to get heavily armed mediums you can get your mitts on.
The mech itself is very good. I just don't like the way it looks. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yes.
I do think it's a shame, because if there was going to be anybody to restart the Galahad, it would have been the Republic of the Sphere.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
And they're gone. And a Galahad 4D or a 3D, I guess you can't do a 3DS, huh?
3D2.
3D2, with taking out that improved C3, putting in I think you just drop a boosted straight in.
Yeah, probably.
Boosted C3 straight in and call it a day. Then you could give the Inner Sphere a great sniper.
Could you put a regular C3 in for the C3i and then give it a regular cockpit?
How much tonnage does the small cockpit save?
I think it's half a ton.
I do not know. I will do the Mega Mech Lab right now.
Because a regular C3 slave is 1 ton, so that would save you 1.5 tons.
So it saves you 2/3 of the weight of a cockpit is a small. Sorry, it reduces the weight to only 2/3. So you get 1/3 weight saving for whatever the weight of your cockpit is. Is the weight of a cockpit dependent on the size of the mech, or is it a standard?
I think it's always 1 ton or 1.5 tons.
Okay.
So what you can do is drop the C3i, upgrade the cockpit up to a standard, and then put a slave on it, and you still have half a ton to play with.
Nice.
Just go into armor.
Yep. Boom. Galahad's 4D. Stone over here playing 4D chess with us.
And still losing.
Yep.
Still losing.
So the 3D has a battle value of 1268 and a point value of 35. We then come to the Galahad 3D Ladice.
Laodices.
That sounds.
I'm assuming it's
Latin,
supposed to be
so-
Greek.
Yeah, or Latin.
Greek or Latin, yeah. Because it's supposed to be Word of Blake.
Well, I mean, nobody's going to get angry at me, right? Because Latin's a dead language, so...
The demons might.
Actually, my brother was telling me that the reason it's a dead language is because everything has a specific pronunciation. So it's probably named after Laodice, the Greek noblewoman.
Well, that's probably where their pilot got their name from, because this one is the personal ride of one of our notable pilots. It is a 3D, and it keeps the movement profile, and that's about it. It rips everything else out. It upgrades the heat sinks to doubles, which is good, considering it also changes the weapons. It has an improved C3 in the head. It has a Guardian suite in the center torso. It has a light PPC in the center torso. It's got an ER PPC in the right arm. It has a PPC capacitor in the right arm. And then it has a light Gauss rifle in the left arm. And of course, it has 3 tons of ammo for that. So you're going to have 48 shots. You're going to be good for quite a while. It's got a light engine, compact gyros, ferro, and endo steel.
So the original Greek ancient figure is Laodicea.
Laodicea. Cool.
So Laodiceas? I don't know. Word of Blake probably doesn't even know how to pronounce it.
Well, considering this is a tabletop war game, I'm going to say Leo Dice.
Liao dice.
Liao dice. Gosh dang Liao dice.
Light PPC, light Gauss with a capacitor, light Gauss rifle.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not really seeing where you get the upgrade over the other one is, though, a standard.
The way I see it, it's not an upgrade. It's more of this guy just tailored it to his personal tastes and what he had on hand.
That was my read as well, yeah.
Like, it's not a better mech. It's just better for him.
Mm-hmm. It's tailored to his personal taste, or their personal taste. Because we actually don't know their gender, because they got, we'll get to that with the pilot profiles.
More machine now than man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I guess you can get slightly higher damage out of it with the capacitor.
Yeah, I mean, it can handle the heat of having that capacitor on all the time pretty well. And so I think this model actually uses the PPC capacitor quite efficiently, as opposed to other models we've seen it in. But it's still going to have some heat management issues when you're really going all out.
Wait. Oh, no, I see what's going on. I was reading this incorrectly. It's got a light PPC and an ER PPC with a capacitor.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay, I understand now.
Mm-hmm.
That's a significant firepower upgrade.
Yeah, because that PPC capacitor can feed in, if my understanding is correct, the PPC capacitor can feed into the light PPC or the ER.
I believe it's tied specifically to one or the other.
Oh, okay. But it's still quite good.
Yeah, because I mean that gives you a 15. That gives you a head capper, brings back the head capping capabilities for 20 points of heat, which is ouch. But you also got a light PPC now, and you've still got one light Gauss. So yeah, okay. I can kind of see it now. It's starting to make sense.
So yes, it does. You are correct. It does have to be located in the same location as the weapon system, so it would be tied to the right arm.
Yep.
My bad.
My B.
This is why we do this podcast, so we can learn how the game works.
Yep. I mean, I have very little actual experience on the tabletop, IRL with people, because even before the pandemic, it was hard to get people to play a game that could possibly take all day.
Yeah, I was driving 2 hours once a month to do an all-day group when I was playing tabletop regularly.
Yeah, but now we have the glory of Mega Mech, and it is coming to fruition. The updates, they are soon.
I'm really hoping that after people get over the pandemic hysteria, we can get into regular sessions back in game stores and start building a community again.
I am very worried about my local game store, and when everything starts back up again, like, obviously there is a whole swath of businesses that we need to be concerned about, and, shop local, buy local whenever you can and all of that. But I'm still worried because, unfortunately, things like comics are usually the first thing cut off of people's,
budgets.
Luxury or budgets and all of that,
Yeah.
No, I can't blame anyone because, we all got bills to pay, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's rough.
But the local game store is so important because even with the internet now, it is the place where you meet people and learn about new games, try something out for the first time. Because I can remember walking into game stores and someone's playing something and, I look over and see what it is. And they're finishing up a game, for example, and the next one they run, they're just like, hey, you want to try this? And that's how you find cool new things. And to lose that, I think, would be a hit to many communities.
Yeah, and frankly, tabletop gaming cannot survive without the local communities.
100%.
Like, at a certain point, no one's going to drive, 2+ hours to get a game in once a month. At some point.
Yeah. Like,
Josh, you were willing to, but, at a certain point, most people aren't. So these local game stores need to be supported. So, listeners, I know you're there.
Yeah.
Josh is a very committed man.
I know you're listening to me, listeners. Buy from your local game store. I don't care if it's just some dice.
Everybody loves dice.
That's one reason why I push Alpha Strike, because the group, I had 2 game stores within 15 minutes of me, but neither one had people who were willing to put in the time to play classic Battletech because they were all busy playing Warhammer or X-Wing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I don't want to spend 6 hours to do 4 turns, 5 turns, whatever. So,
yeah,
and the X-Wing group doesn't want to paint their minis because they're used to pre-painted plastic. And so the only group I could find was at a game store 2 hours away. And I wanted to play my mercenary company.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't even know my local game store owner back when I lived in Santa Cruz, California. Like, I didn't know he liked Battletech until right as I was leaving. And one day I came in, I was like, hey, got some new stuff recently, Battletech. And he's like, cool, Battletech. I love Battletech. I'm like, you love Battletech? Then why don't you carry any of it? But, I mean, my guess is because there was no, group there.
Demand.
Yeah.
It was all Infinity in Santa Cruz with some Warhammer.
No, it makes sense. But circling back to the Galahad, specifically the last model of the day, it's got a battle value of 1549 and a point value of 36, and we can see why, because that capacitor is a nice bit of tech.
15 points of damage.
Back to your regular scheduled program.
Yeah. So next we come to our pilot profiles. And our first pilot today is Captain Mate Havelka. The captain had the distinction of piloting one of the last recorded operational Galahad-1Ds. The last record we have of the captain and his Galahad is them joining the planetary militia of Holt in 3038. Before that, he took part in the American invasion of Timbiki in 3028, where he secured a high-value brewery undamaged. He then spent the next month doing his best to kill his liver with the spoils of war.
That's how you do it.
He was deployed to support the 6 Orloff Grenadiers, for the invasion of Paulsbo, and reportedly went with a large supply of liquid reserves.
Your French is trying to slip back in.
It's not the alcohol.
Yeah, apparently.
It's not grenadine.
Yeah, I do love how in the entry it says the highly valued brewery.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what everybody was interested in, was the brewery.
Both sides not willing to fire anywhere near it to damage it.
Not the planet, just wanted the beer. All right, next up we have Phantom Demi Presenter Delta Laodices. Laodices?
Laodicea?
Something Greek or pseudo-Latin from the Word of Blake.
Mm-hmm.
And he was part of the 40th Shadow Division of the Word of Blake during the Jihad. This unit would be involved in the fighting on Tharkad, hunting down resistance cells, including the Royal Guards of the Lyran Commonwealth. They would also be involved in the capture of Hesperus II, and then also during the raid on Arcturus. It is unclear whether this pilot, who was part of the Mane Domini, was involved in all of these different operations. But seeing as he's a Mane Domini, it could be very well assumed that he was involved in any sort of major engagement the 40th Shadow Division was involved in.
What I find really creepy about Laodices is it's unknown whether they're male or female because they've replaced so many bits of their body with cybernetics. You can't tell the original gender.
Yeah, that's a level of body horror that you don't normally see in the Battletech universe.
Outside of the Word of Blake, anyway.
Praise be to the Omnissiah!
Plot twist, Battletech is 40k, just way before.
Prequel.
Battletech is pre-Dark Age of technology.
Yeah. The Interseer thought it had a Dark Age, but it was really just a light gray age.
Middling to mild gray. Yeah.
Men of Iron were Battlemechs.
So next up, we are going to talk about the book Exodus Road, give a little bit of an overview because it is a important book in the Battletech series, and it is also a very good book. Isn't that right, Chandler?
Yes, and it's also the first book in the Twilight of the Clans series. So if you have not read that series, spoiler warning, as per usual. But this series has been out since what, the 90s, early 2000s?
I'm pretty sure it's early 2000s.
So, like, you just should read it. It's easy to get your mitts on. It's not a hard series to get your hands on, unlike Dark Ages. There's plenty of eerie books and copies floating around. So, read it. It's good. Easily the best Battletech series.
When I asked Blaine on Facebook what I should read before starting Betrayal of Ideals... No, not Betrayal of Ideals. What's the one with Trent?
Forever Faithful?
Forever Faithful. When I asked him what I should read before picking up Forever Faithful, this was the one he most recommended in order to understand Forever Faithful.
Well, yeah, that makes sense as it is a direct prequel, practically.
Sequel.
Well, technically for Other Faithful is a sequel, but...
Yeah, no, it's really cool. Like, the main character is called Trent, who is a Clan Smoke Jaguar who fought during the invasion and got a real raw end of the deal because of political machinations and
also the fallout from the Battle of Tukid.
Mm-hmm.
Politically, psychologically, and physically. He had a bad time.
Yes, very bad time.
Comstar's involved, but the good Comstar, not the bad Comstar.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Well, one of them's the word of Blake at this point.
Intention. So the most of the book follows Trent and Judith, who he takes as a bondsman and is a Comstar agent and actually a ROM agent. And she convinces him to map the Exodus Road, which is the route back to the clan homeworlds, which he agrees to under interesting it is very interesting to see his internal thought process and him struggle with what he is doing, because even reading the book the first time, I always got the feeling that Trent was a very loyal clanner. Like, he believed in the clan ethos and ideology, and he felt that his clan had strayed, that he had been betrayed by his people.
And it's not betrayed like left out to die or, left in a bad situation and suffered the consequences because his clan didn't back him up. It was more, he was one of the warriors on Tukid, and he was horribly maimed there, but he survived. And the next generation of clan warriors, which includes Paul Moon, who has become important in some recent books.
Yep.
Namely Forever Faithful.
Feel that Trent and his generation of warriors failed the clans on Tukid because they lost.
Yes.
And they don't understand that the warriors on Tukid went up against basically an out-of-context situation. They had no way to win.
Mm-hmm.
It was outside their paradigm.
Yeah, like, the warriors who fought on Tukid may not have won the battle, but they were not failures, in my opinion. The failure was that of the clan leadership to properly understand the situation, which, of course, they were manipulated into not understanding.
Yeah. And so he feels betrayed because he gave his all, did everything he could for his clan, and yet his clan considers him a failure.
Mm-hmm. And Paul Moon makes it kind of his pet project to break Trent and, get rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
So that certainly does not help.
And all Trent wants to do is fight and prove that he is a capable warrior.
Yeah.
And that's basically what Judith promises with Comstar, and is the motivation for him betraying the clans. Is Comstar says, we will put you in a unit. We will put you back on the battlefield. We will let you be a warrior.
Mm-hmm.
And Clan Smoke Jaguar's going, we're not going to let you be a warrior. You were a failure. You're lucky we're sending you to a Solama unit.
Essentially, it all boils down to the clans need a political caste.
Or a political class that is not the scientists or the warriors.
Yes. Someone who can political everyone without the warriors getting butthurt about it. Because that's how you blow up your own clan, is make a warrior unhappy.
I mean, Seafox tends to do all right. They got that mercantile warrior political thing going. So I think those two other sections kind of temper the warrior, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure a political caste is exactly what you need.
Not straight up. I will agree with you on that. Yeah, and so he goes back to the clan homeworlds. He's sent off by Paul Moon, thinking that he's finally gotten rid of Trent, and Trent is able to maneuver things so that he gets reassigned back to the inner sphere, just barely, and then is able to make his escape by getting word to the Comstar through Judith, through the back channels, through the hidden networks of resistant cells, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they fake their death, and so Jaguar thinks they're dead. Because, I mean, let's be real. If Clan Smoke Jaguar thought that Trent was alive, they would have... nothing would have stopped them from killing him.
Yeah, or stop them from attempting anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, he reveals he's still alive later on during the Great Refusal in order to force clan, wasn't the Smoke Jags at that point,
Ice Hellion?
but in order to force clan warriors to overreach and make severe tactical mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but that is a different book.
Yes.
So I hate the clans, generally speaking.
Which is fair.
I don't know if anybody's noticed.
I had an inkling.
And so I went into this book expecting to dislike Trent, to dislike most of the characters. And by the end, I really sympathized with Trent. I kind of admired him, and it was odd to actually care about a clanner.
Well, that just means that Blaine did a good job writing him.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing in all of Blaine's books that I've read, especially his clan ones, he does a very good job of finding the humanity in these characters. And, they're trapped in a monstrous system, but they're still people, and they still have traits that you can empathize with.
They have a cultural touchstone that you can empathize with, that you understand.
And I think part of that is most of the times you see clan warriors, they're, you're bold and brash, cocksure, and, we are the best, we are genetically superior, blah, 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 inner sphere, free birth scum kind of people.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of people like Trent who are willing to look at things from another point of view. And to a certain extent, they're not trained or raised to ever see anything from a different point of view. If you read the Blood of Kerensky trilogy with Horse, well, you see Horse later in this one, but Blood of Kerensky trilogy,
Jade Phoenix,
you see a couple of no, it's not Blood of Kerensky. No, it is.
Horse doesn't show up in Blood of Kerensky.
Let me back up. No, he doesn't. I'm thinking of Twilight of the Clans. Later in the Twilight of the Clans, you see a lot of free birth warriors from the clans, and they're completely different.
Oh, yeah.
Even though they're in positions of similar authority.
They're not quite the same genetic supremacists.
Yeah, that's a understated way to put it.
No, well, because, Horse, for example, he is free birth. He is not a, vat-grown clan warrior. He is...
I prefer the term vat brat.
Yeah, he's completely different. And then you have who becomes Diane Pride. She is a regular birthed trueborn, essentially, because both of her parents were trueborn.
Yep.
And she is also very different because she was raised in that, a quote-unquote normal upbringing, even though both of her parents were trueborn and had that, part of that mentality.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. And I think the clan, I am most interested in learning about the clans when we are looking at that sort of dichotomy and deconstructing the facade of military might is right. It's like, okay, no, legitimately, how do you actually make things work? Because people still got to eat. Stuff still has to be maintained. Like, I get it, but gear down, big rig,
Yeah, and I another reason I think sometimes we get a bit of a skewed outlook is we always see it from the big warrior ethos clans. You see it from Wolf Jaguar, Jade Falcon. You never see it from like Sea Fox, who is much less warrior focused.
Every time we get to read about the Sea Foxes, I really love it because they're always so cool and interesting to learn about.
Yeah, and you rarely see it from like Ghost Bear, who, even though they're very warrior centric, their warriors are much more family, in air quotes, oriented.
Yes.
They're much more caring about the individual to an extent.
Different book, but one of my favorite books in the Battletech universe is Trial by Chaos, which is all about the Ghost Bears.
Yes, that is a very good one as well. Also one about an elemental.
Yep.
You even see a cultural difference between elementals and mech pilots in the Twilight of the Clans series.
The elemental I actually really liked in Exodus Road was the one who was traveling the Exodus Road on the supply lines, and they had one of the chapters, he brings out a bottle of booze with Trent and Judith, and they get little tattoos of the Star League Cameron star, and for crossing the halfway mark. I thought that was really cool.
That's a very military thing to do.
It's a Navy thing to do. Because my uncle, who was in the Canadian Navy, they have a equator ceremony thing. Yep. Which is weird.
I am a shellback. I'm not a polywog like you guys. I was inducted into the halls of Neptune when we crossed the equator.
I'm so confused.
Not sure how to rebuttal that, but
that's what you're.
I don't even know what's going on.
No, yeah, I know, but I'm just how do I follow that?
But yeah, and then there's also this rivalry Trent has with another person from his generation of warriors who's very much embraced the political infighting of what has become the pastime of the warrior caste, which is, trying to angle for the most honor and put down rivals without having to actually kill them.
Yeah, if I don't have an enemy on the outside, the enemy is on the inside.
Yeah, and she's constantly, within the first chapter, she's angle to, essentially take all of Trent's honor away from him.
Yeah, she maneuvers and makes it look as though... I'm pretty sure she claims some of his kills and makes it look like he did very poorly in the Battle of Tukid, and for that reason she gets his blood name nomination, and while he's in like a medically induced coma and gets through the full trials. So
well, that's part of it. I think, isn't he forced to punch out at the beginning of the book during Tukid, and so he's badly injured and she's conscious.
No, he doesn't punch out. That's why he gets so injured, is because his Timberwolf gets hit by like a bajillion arrow fours, and Judith actually is the one who pulls him out and saves his...
And then throws him under the bus.
While Jez, and the whole reason he's there is because Jez was there, who is the warrior we were just talking about. Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh yeah, I totally did great. And of course, neither of them have any information to back it up because both their mechs get destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
But since she's the one who's up first, she gets the, the first say. Mm-hmm. And with the Khan being pissed at the friend of Trent who was going to nominate him, she essentially gets the preferential treatment.
Mm-hmm. Lots of political machinations, which is exactly what Nicholas envisioned, right?
Yeah.
When you say the clans need a political class, they already have one.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They need a better political class.
I almost see Exodus Road as, well, not only a way for the Inner Sphere to figure out where the clan homeworlds are, but also just showing how much the Battle of Tukid broke the clans.
Oh, yeah.
Society.
Like, they don't know how to handle this. Yeah. Especially the Smoke Jaguars.
Mm-hmm. Because they were committed.
Yeah. Like, Jade Falcon figures their shit out, and they're like, okay, we're gonna bide our time, kick everyone else's... Mm-hmm. But Smoke Jaguar is like, what the fuck do we do now? And of course, pointing blame everywhere.
We did Turtle Bay. We can't just stay here.
Yeah.
That was another great part for me when Trent was back in action before he gets sent to the homeworlds. He's trying to deal with... It's basically setting up why
Partisans.
He would be willing to betray his clan, in addition to the whole them blaming him for being a failure. But the way the clans were dealing with civilians.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, especially Smoke Jaguar, but the clans in general.
Wiping out that village.
Yeah. Just scorched earth policy whenever something bad happens.
Yeah.
And he's...
they stole half a medium laser. Well, we're just going to burn every city down. Salt the earth.
Yeah, he's, protesting that these aren't even the people who committed the attack. These are innocent people. They're civilians. Our honor demands we protect them, not wipe them out.
Yeah.
And the other warriors are going...
Yeah, and the worst part, they even know that it wasn't them. Like, it's not like, oh, hey, it might not be these people. They know there's battle mech equipped partisans out in the wilderness who did do these things, but they're still going to destroy this village and kill the people because they want to send a message. But it's not the right message.
It's very early Malvina.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there is a through line from the Smoke Jaguar ideology to her.
Yeah. And I arguably, and I think Blaine makes the argument in some of these books with some of these characters, that it's not just a through line from Jaguars to Malvina. It's an inherent part of clan ideology, and it's only warriors who believe in the ideal, like Trent does, that stand in the way of...
Who rein it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, to temper that. That is not a incorrect read, I think. It's definitely interesting, but I mean, you're also looking at the Smoke Jaguars and the Jade Falcons, who have always been on the very extreme of the conservative side of clan ideology. Because, I mean, Smoke Jaguar didn't even have free birth warriors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, TLDR, clans, Comstar for the win?
Praise Blake.
Periphery life.
No. This is post-Tukid Comstar. This is after the schism. Because, and that's something that puts a cherry at the top of this book. At the very end, you learn that the Word of Blake has taken Terra.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And it's like a sidebar event.
Yeah, it's like part of the epilogue.
It's just like, you just kind of hear it. Yeah, it's like a telephone chain of people that finally gets to them.
Yeah, because I mean, Judith's Comstar, she's Rom.
Mm-hmm. She's
been trapped in the clan homeworlds for years, and then she gets back and, oh, by the way, this happened.
What?
By the way, Blake, the Word of Blake took Terra, and your parents may or may not be in danger, and you're being reassigned.
Yeah.
Sorry you can't stay with your BFF forever.
Mm-hmm. She also had a kid, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was with him, though. I don't know if that was spelled spelled out.
No, it was not with him. She did not have a kid with him.
I really liked this because we got to see a lot more than just mech combat.
Yeah.
We got to see him fight hand-to-hand with elementals. We got to see elementals in action. We got to see counterinsurgency stuff. It's
a really good book.
Yeah, it's a much more rounded book. It's not as one-dimensional. Everybody's in mechs all the time. That's all this world exists in this world. It's very well rounded.
Mm-hmm.
I've said it once and I'll say it again. Battletech is at its strongest when you're not in the mech. Somehow that doesn't make any sense, but the stories just are great because the mech's in the background just waiting to be unleashed into the story.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like, hey, no, we got to do these things, but we can't do it with a mech.
So what you're saying is Battletech is at its best when it's using Chekhov's battle mech.
The nuclear vessels.
Yeah. So for our data dive today, we are going to turn back to the Federated Sons and look at House Davion for Part 4. Today we return to the Federated Sons and House Davion, and more specifically Renard Davion, as he took the mantle as Prime Minister and President when his uncle Charles passed away in 2340. Renard is reported to have held strong convictions in defending and enforcing the Crucis Pact and the Two Covenants of New Avalon. Renard was sociable and charismatic, much like his late father, but was also pragmatic like his uncles. Thus, he knew how to make things happen. He was also the first of the modern Davion line to show innate skill and aptitude at military operations and planning. His service record would include operations with the Federated Expeditionary Force in 2334, and he finished his career in the military as a colonel. Renard inherited a war, or more accurately, an unstable border that had raged for 20 years, and had vexed both his father and his uncle. Renard resolved to resolve this conflict during his administration. He chose that the best way to resolve this conflict was from a position of strength.
He was quite resolved.
In order to do this, he set out from New Avalon in 2344 to take direct command of the reserve task force gathered along the Chesterton-Tikhonov Union border. The task force was split into 3 groups, 2 that would hit worlds around Mirark in a show of force, and the 3rd would strike deep at Almac, severing the supply lines to the front. This coordinated and well-planned operation stunned and hamstrung the defenders, allowing for a relatively easy conquest. Many were surprised by the sudden Davion military prowess, chiefly among them the Federated Sons. Having displayed a show of strength, the Federated Sons now negotiated from a position of power, and in a brilliant political move, Renard negotiated with the stronger of the Federated Sons' enemies, the Compelling Hegemony. In 2345, the 2 interstellar nations signed the Alak Pact, a non-aggressions pact that promoted trade and peaceful relations, and also formalized the border and resolved several outstanding disputes. The pact also included provisions for settling future conflicts in a peaceful way. Many look back at the Alak Pact as an intention for Renard to annex the Compelling Hegemony over time. Whatever Renard's intentions were, the point was moot, as the Capellans always knew it would again result in war, but viewed the pact as a time-buying measure that was more than worth the paper it was written on. 6 months after the Alak Pact, the Federated Sons Council was called upon to approve another agreement with the Capellan leadership, the Almac Accords, in 2346, that formalized the transfer of the Chesterton worlds of Mira, Massaretim, and Almac to the Federated Sons' control. Renard did not wait for the approval or ratification from the Council before enacting the Accords. This would not be the first time the Davion line would overstep their bounds, and it would not be the last time that the Council failed to keep the Davion line in check.
I've noticed when beloved leaders are referred to as pragmatic, it's usually because they're tyrants, and nobody wants to admit it because they're beloved.
But they're getting the stuff we want done.
I really like you, but you're also being a dick. So you're pragmatic, not a tyrant. Please don't cut my head off.
Basically, yes.
Yeah. The new Federated Sons planets were accepted into the fold, and Renard named them as independent member worlds of the Federated Sons, giving them a standing in the Federated Suns much higher than they had had in the Chesterton trade worlds and then the Tikhonov Union. Renard then designated Almach to be a trustee planet and had a massive military installations built in order to protect the border region. And then Renard headed back to New Avalon to continue on as the leader of the Federated Suns in peacetime as well. When he returned home, he focused on economics and social improvements. This is where his primary focus would be held until 2363, when the border again was in open conflict. The root of the 2363 conflict was in 2357, when the FPF occupied the planet Bell of the Sarna Supremacy and demanded the transfer of Chesterton and Highspire into the Federated Suns. This created a unforeseeable chain reaction in the Capellan political arena that resulted in the Prime Magistrate Julian Dux resigning and the multifaceted Sulik Tukas rise in his place. Sulik would spend 5 years unifying and directing his people for the coming confrontation with the Federated Suns. In March of 2363, Tukas renounced the previous pacts and accords while also recalling the ambassador from New Avalon. In a final petty declaration, Tukas demanded the world of Lee, citing a long-standing trade agreement that should supersede all other agreements and set a precedent for the Capellan claim. The world of Lee would be a long-standing disputed world between the two nations. To make matters worse, the recall of the Capellan ambassador, Fasci Tukas, the brother of the Capellan leader, never reached Capellan space and simply disappeared en route back to the Capellan capital. Both sides were blamed by the other for the disappearance, and both sides had theories and motives in excess. But no concrete findings were ever found by either side's investigations. Sulik naturally used the disappearance and presumed death of his brother to justify a military mobilization. The Capellan operation called on, air quotes, loyal citizens to cast down their false and traitorous leaders, to help wayward planets rejoin the Capellan fold. No leader or group of note was moved by this proclamation to have any measurable effect. But when Renard Davion proclaimed a state of war, the vote of confidence by the council was unanimous in his favor. This time Renard directed the war effort from New Avalon, an effort that lasted several years and was again fruitful. As the conflict dragged on, the invasion of the planet Lee was stopped and repulsed. It collapsed the Prime Magistrate Tukas's administration and then the Capellan hegemony as a whole. Also, as time passed, the Tikhonov Union and the St. Ives Association were drawn into the conflict, presenting the FPF the opportunity to retake all the worlds lost dating back to the First Border Wars. Having retaken all that was lost, Renard felt that the stain upon Davion honor was now cleaned away.
Is it just me, or does anybody else find the name of the Capellan Chancellor, Tukas, to be a very silly name? Very Mel Brooks?
Yeah, I see it.
That is assuming I am pronouncing it correctly.
That is also true.
Yeah. By 2367, the Compelling Confederation had been formed from the remnants of the Capellan hegemony and other fragment nations that had been drawn into the conflicts over the previous decades. In a perplexing move, Renard refused to recognize the new nation, and so diplomatic relations were at a standstill, resulting in intermittent border conflicts for the remainder of Renard's rule. In 2371, Renard died at the age of 64 due to the reoccurrence of the Black Marsh fever he first contracted while on deployment on the planet of Galzitin, and so we see the end of the third Davion leader. With history and time, it is easy to see how these first three leaders truly set the tone and style for the Federated Suns, and how each built upon the other's legacy, but at the same time the bar was set so high from the beginning, and few checks were put into place, for they were not needed with the gifted and talented leaders in control. But next time we will see what happens with the opposite.
Fed Suns.
Our sources for today are Sarna, Battletech Battlemech Manual, Master Unit List, Succession Wars TRO and RS, TRO 3075, Record Sheets 3075, Age of War Unabridged, Jihad Turning Point, Hesperus 2, and Sourcebook House Davion.
My sources were Twilight of the Clans, Forever Faithful, and Blood of Kerensky trilogy.
Yes, the novels as well.
Good books all.
Yes.
Yep, read them. Do it. Do it now.
This podcast is made possible by our supporters on patreon.com/On the Origin of Battlemechs, link in the description. Our social media on Twitter is at Origin of Mechs. We also have a community Discord, the Armory of Ouroboros, link in the description. You can email us at ontheoriginofbattlemechs@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, please leave a review on your platform of consumption, tell your friends about us, and share on your community platform of choice. Special thanks to my friend Laura for the intro and outro. Class dismissed. Everybody have a great day.
Peace out, Mech Warriors.
Stay safe out there.
Module complete. System standby. Would you like to load the next module?
When the moon's in the sky like a big pizza pie, it's a meatball. Hi, Craig. Glad you showed up this time, Craig. I'm gonna rescind your payment that we don't pay you if you don't show up promptly next time. Maybe I just won't clean the outside of your jar.
Yeah, we'll use the Windex that leaves a streak.
The off-brand Windex.
We'll streak the... we won't mix it with holy Blake water like we normally do for you.
Does that make off-brand window cleaner Lost Tech?
No, that would make Windex Lost Tech because we would have the off-brand because it would
yes,
be
but
it's
the
inferior.
Off-brand is Streaks.
Oh, no. Yeah.
What? There's no Galahad in the 2750 or the 3025? Where does it come from?
3075
from,
and Jihad.
Yeah. And Jihad Turning Point Hesperus 2.
And that's the named one.
So they're lying to me when they say technical readout Succession Wars?
Who do you say lying?
I think I might have pulled the record sheets out of it.
Well, I'm looking at a master unit list, and the Galahad 1D and 2D are said to be in the technical readout Succession Wars, which made me think they would be in 3025 or 2750.
So on Sarna, it's got a citation for Secession Wars, but that's for the destruction of a certain production facility.
Interesting.
Not for any great information about the mech. Although it might be in direct relation to the Galahad, I'm not sure.
No, we should actually probably start the episode.
Nah. We'll just sit here and chat about the Galahad for a little bit.
Luckily, we recorded all that, so... data dive or
yeah.
Let's see. Wait, hold on. How long is this episode? We're already at an hour.
Yeah.
Well, this is the new format.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Good point. Yeah.
So talk
Go
more.
ahead, Brent. It's all. The floor is yours.
Huzzah.